Good afternoon, Paul. It's Friday, the 16th of December. Here's the heads up brief for today.
Thanks, Uday. Go ahead.
Paul, Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister James Marape said that the military may be deployed for a year to the provinces of Enga, Hila, and the Southern Highlands, with shoot to kill orders. Now, this is in response to the violence in the highlands around research projects over the last couple of months.
Well, that's a real concern. I mean, utilising army as a paramilitary force means that one, they're not training, two, they're not being utilised for the strategic purposes you have a military force, three, they're going to become in conflict with heavily armed Highlanders, which is going to, on the short term, patch up and on the long term, escalate into something much greater rather than fix, fund, respect, and use a police force for civil requirements. Unfortunately, the monies to do so seem not to have made it to their destinations, but have been diverted to other uses. Go ahead, mate.
Right, Paul. In Indonesia, the General Elections Commission has said that 17 political parties have been approved to participate in the 2024 elections. There were 18 parties in total who registered, only one didn't make it.
Okay, that's interesting. It's slowly, since the first elections, whittling down where real minor parties realise the funding and the effort's not worth it. Um, that's good progress and maturation. Thank you.
Yeah. Also in Indonesia, Paul, there was a small protest against the criminal code yesterday in Jakarta. It doesn't seem to have gained much momentum so far, the issue. This or the workers' protests, but we're still keeping an eye out.
Thank you.
At least two people were killed and 23 people were injured after a landslide hit Pahang in Malaysia, about 30 kilometers northeast of Kuala Lumpur. Dozens of people are still trapped. Authorities have warned of flash floods and continuous rains over the coming days in peninsular Malaysia.
Okay, thanks. Just make sure that the weekend duty are aware of that and aware of the main arterial roads and report anything that may impact traffic in and out of KL, please.
Yes, sure, Paul. Paul, in Malaysia also, today political parties in the government will sign an agreement declaring their support for the unity government. This comes ahead of the December 19th confidence vote.
Okay, thank you.
In Thailand, Paul, residents of the Sea Nomad or Gypsy tribes have threatened to protest in Bangkok over a land dispute. Their residents in Satun province. A landowner in the area has cut off a route frequented by them.
Okay, I don't expect that to be major given that they're a very marginalised group that lacks power. So Bangkok will sort of ignore that one with great gusto. Thank you.
All right. Paul, in Timor-Leste, authorities will ramp up the deployment of police in Dili for security over Christmas and New Year. Last year, there was violence in the country due to martial art gang clashes, and there was also alcohol-fueled violence around the Christmas New Year periods.
Yeah, I saw they mentioned having 500 police mobilised and on duty in Dili. It'll be interesting to see where that goes. The martial arts groups are fundamentally youth gangs. Uh, very few of them are skilled or is the main focus an actual skill of a martial art. Um, they may use an art as a front for their activity, but the reality is they're not martial arts groups like Westerners may perceive them. The emphasis isn't on discipline and development of skill and progression of skills acknowledged by the different colour of belts and bands. It's more about how they get together as a youth and run rampant. Once induced by alcohol, it gets out of control and those social issues come out. Thank you.
Yep. In South Asia, intense border clashes broke out again between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Yesterday, around the Chaman border crossing in Balochistan, one person was killed and 16 people were injured. Now, this comes days after at least 7 people were killed and dozens were injured in the same area due to clashes between the Afghan Taliban and Pakistan forces.
Okay, thanks.
Moving on to the Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. So the European Union has put sanctions on Russia, blacklisting about 200 individuals and entities and 3 banks. They've also put restrictions on investments into the mining sector in Russia, and they'll also block the dual-use goods. Italy and France also announced that they will deliver air defense systems to the Ukrainian military.
Okay, it's very interesting because obviously these sanctions can become a double-edged weapon as it segregates and as BRICS grows. Ultimately, I believe in the longer term, European Union will start to splinter around energy costs and energy accessibility. On top of that, you're going to have China sitting back and letting the economy split, keeping neutral but not saying anything, but behind closed doors doing everything to encourage it because it suits them to be silent so they can benefit from supplying goods to Western and advanced markets and the large economies. But it also suits them that the economy split because it depowers America's homogenic or monopoly on being the lead currency. And when you have people buying energy in renminbi and also um, in other currencies, it basically means that by receiving rubles and by receiving renminbi, it starts to depower America in the longer term. Remembering that on a purchasing power parity basis, China is already the world's largest global economy. Circa 2030, it'll be the biggest economy on a USD base, on a USD equivalent basis. So some of these sanctions are very short-term focused. They may get more than they're bargaining for with a ignorant, myopic, short-term view. Thanks, Uday.
Thanks, Paul, for your insight on that. That's the brief for today. Anything else for you?
Thanks a lot.